Hello and welcome. This is Angie Holden and I blog at The Country Chic Cottage. Today we're going to talk more about the Cricut mug press. So a couple of days ago I introduced you to the mug press. We took a tour of it, saw how it worked, we made one mug. Today we're going to talk about designing mugs and make several different versions of the mugs using Cricut Infusible ink, the Cricut Infusible ink pens, in a variety of different ways. Now this video is sponsored by Cricut, however all projects and opinions are my own. This is the Cricut mug press. If you missed my first video, I'm going to link that in the description below. In that video you can see like all the specifics of the machine if you're curious about that. We'll also be using Cricut mug blanks today. So they make a small one and a large one. In that previous video I went through the sizes, the dimensions of the mug, as well as the different box quantities that you can get. So if you're curious about those, head on back to that video. So what we're going to do today is make a variety of different mugs. So we're going to talk about doing kind of full wrap mugs where the only blank space is under that handle. We're going to talk about just infusible ink designs that are on one or both sides. And then we'll talk about designs that you might draw with your pen and color in with other infusible ink markers. Now the first thing we need to do is talk about all the supplies you're going to need to make the projects we're going to make today. So let's turn the camera around and let's look at all the supplies in detail. First, let's take a look at the materials. You'll need your Cricut mug press, of course. Then you'll need infusible ink, transfer sheets, or pens or markers. For the transfer sheets, you can use the regular full-size sheets. You could use sheets that were intended for the Cricut Joy. But there are also some now that you'll find that are marked for Cricut mug press. These are specifically sized to have the least waste when doing the full wrap designs. So you might want to look for those at the store. As far as the pens or markers, you could use any pens, any markers, even the freehand markers if you want to color in or draw some. Then you'll need copy paper and butcher paper if you're going to use the pens and markers. You'll definitely need a lint roller as well as heat resistant tape. I recommend a brayer, especially for the transfer sheets. And then you might need a set of tweezers for weeding the transfer sheets. Now let's take a look at the mugs. As far as mug blanks, you can get 12-ounce mugs or 15-ounce mugs. These are the 2 packs, but there are other pack sizes as well. So you can see sort of the size difference between the 12-ounce and the 15-ounce. The other difference is that the 15-ounce comes with a gift box for each mug inside the package. So if you are giving them as gifts or selling them, you may want to consider the 15-ounce size to get that extra box inside. So this is a 2-pack. There are 2 mugs and 2 gift boxes inside. So these are sized specifically to work in the Cricut mug press. So both sizes will work in the press. And I talked a little bit more about the mug sizes in my first video, so you want to head back there and watch that for any further specifics on mug sizes. So now let's take a look in Cricut Design Space at designing a full wrap design, and then we'll cut and make one. Now that we have all those supplies, let's head to Cricut Design Space and let's actually see how easy it is to design that mug. That way you'll know when you want to make that full wrap design, how you make it, and all the steps you need to go through to get it just right. I'll drop a link below for this mug design setup project in Cricut Design Space. This makes making a full wrap mug super easy. The first thing you'll want to do on this project window before you do anything is choose the type of mug you're going to make. So once again, there are large and small mugs, so the 12-ounce or 15-ounce, and then the edge design is up to you. So they have straight edges, ripped edges, scalloped edge, wavy edge, and zigzag edge. So I'm actually going to pick one of each, add them to my canvas so you can kind of see the differences between them. But let's go ahead and keep scrolling. So it does tell you the materials that you're going to cut, everything else you'll need, as well as a full set of directions right on this page. So if perhaps you're struggling with how to make your mug, then I would just reference this page once again. For now, I'm going to add all the mug designs to my canvas, and then we'll come back and take a look at those. Once you pick the mug you want, you'll just click Customize to add it to your canvas. And you can see this one is a straight edge, and it comes in with a layer to show you placement, the layer for your cut, as well as a layer for the wrap itself. And we'll go over what each of those are. So first of all, here's a look at the small mug wrap next to the large mug wrap. So you can see the size difference between those two there. And here are your 5 different edge treatments. So we have straight, scallop, ripped, wavy, and zigzag. And again, you can choose those on that first screen and it will add the one that you want to your canvas. Now let's take a look at designing with these templates. So here's the small wrap with the scalloped edge, and we are going to design a mug with this. So first of all, let's find an image to cut out of our mug wrap. So I'm going to use this mom image and insert that. So let's talk about the template itself. This red area, as you can see, it's called hide this layer before cutting. So we're going to hide that later. What it's intended to do is to help you locate your cut. So this is one side in the middle, and you can see your handle on the left. This is the center of the mug if the handle was to the back. And if your handle's to the right, this line indicates the center of the mug. So we can resize these letters to fit however we wanted. So we could make it all the way around the mug like this. We could make it on one side, we could put it in the center. So anywhere you wanted it to be, you could locate it in that location. So I took the letters, made them 3 different cuts, and now I can put them vertically on the mug. So center of the front, what I would call the front of the mug, and center of the back. So I'm going to pick all 3 of these letters, and I'm going to align and center those horizontally so they're all centered up. And I'm going to group them together just so they'll stay together just like that. And then I can center those on the mug. So I just get it to where it looks pretty good to me. And I want the same design on the front and the back. So I'm going to duplicate that and add it to this other side. Once again, we can pick both these groups and we can align and we can center those vertically so they are the same height up and down as well. All right, and then we need to first hide this, remember. So we're going to click the eye over on the layers panel, and now that layer is hidden. And now we want to attach these letters to the scalloped portion or slice them, either way you want to do that. And so I'm going to pick all of the letters and click attach. So now all of my letters will cut out of that scalloped version. Now you may notice that there is a cut here and a cut here. So let's move this cut out so you can see. This cut is going to cut through your transfer paper. So we're going to actually see how that works in a minute when we go to cut. But this cut is very important, and you actually don't want to move it out like that, so I'm just going to hit undo. I just wanted to show you what it looks like. So it needs to look just like this when it goes to your machine. And so I'm going to pick everything and click attach. Now if I click make it, everything is together. Looks just perfect. So now we can click continue and cut our design. You can even use this template to size your designs even if you're not going to do a full mug wrap. So this green square represents the area in which you can press, because you want the design a 1/2 inch from your handle on both sides. So you want to keep your design within this area. So even if I was just going to put this design on the coffee mug, I could use the template to size my design and get it right. Have 2 of them, and then I could just delete the template portion back off and have 2 cut designs. Now I would probably, to conserve ink, I would just put them together, let the Cricut cut as it would, and not make them separate. Using the template might make it easier to visualize your design actually being on the mug. Now, when we click Make It, we're also going to need to mirror our design because it is Infusible ink transfer sheets. And then we can click Continue, pick Infusible ink transfer sheets from the drop down, and continue our cut. Now that we have our design, it's time to break out our Cricut machine and our Infusible ink transfer sheets and actually cut our design. Now I'm going to use the Cricut mug press version for this full wrap design, so there's minimal waste with my Infusible ink sheets. So let's head to our Cricut machine and start cutting. So we're going to use this box of Infusible ink transfer sheets. Again, it says Cricut mug press right on the box. And each of these boxes comes with 2 sheets. They're specifically sized to 4.5 inches by 12 inches. And what we want to do is put this sheet ink side up on the mat, so backing side down. Now, if you've used Infusible ink before, you might be thinking there's something different about this product. So the Infusible ink used to have a grid on it that looks something like this. So if you have older versions of Infusible ink, it will look like this. But they have recently redesigned it to where there are no grid lines on the backing paper. So there is nothing wrong with that. It's just a different look to the Infusible ink. So we are going to use this for the small mug. So it's going to cut inside of here. If you're using it for the larger mug, it will be super close to these edges. So you want to be very careful when placing it on your mat that you get it across the lines on the top and the bottom. And then what I recommend is that you just run your brayer over the top of this just to make sure it's really well stuck down to the mat. Now we can open our Cricut machine. Now, Infusible ink transfer sheets cut with any of the Cricut machines. I'm using my Cricut Explorer today, but you can use any of those. And for any of the machines, you will want to use the Infusible ink transfer sheet setting. So that means on the Cricut Explorer that I'm going to change my dial to custom. And from Cricut Design Space, when it prompts me, I'm going to pick Infusible ink transfer sheet for my material. I'm just using my fine point blade in my Cricut machine. You'll want to be sure to mirror your cut when cutting Infusible ink. That's because we're going to turn this over and put it on to our mug, so you want to be sure to mirror the design. And then once you've picked Infusible ink transfer sheet, your button will start flashing and you can load your mat. And then we'll just press C to cut. So the Cricut has cut all the internal details and now it's going around this outside edge. What happens is it actually goes around that outside edge twice, so don't be scared. That is intentional, and I'll show you why as soon as it's done cutting. Now it's making that pretty scalloped edge that we put on the side of our mug. And now it's done cutting because the button is flashing, so we can remove it from the machine. Now let's take a closer look at this and what happened when it did that double cut. So first, let's flip this over and we'll remove it from our mat. So we can start by weeding these internal pieces, and how best to do that is to sort of bend and crack the Infusible ink so that those internal pieces loosen up. And with designs like these, I a lot of times have to stop and think about what I want to remove. So you may want to do that before you start removing it. And I like to kind of crack it in both directions. Now what's going to happen is, you remember that double cut around the outside edge? This outside edge is just going to kind of crack apart, because we want to be left with just the piece that's going to go onto our mug. This helps eliminate any excess so that we don't have all of that hanging off of the mug top and bottom. So now we have that outside piece and we can just discard that. So now you can see how much kind of waste I have. The only other waste I'll have is for my scalloped edges. And for that, we're just gonna peel that top layer back and we're gonna leave this sticky portion. So we'll crack it, peel that back. Crack this side, peel that back. I also want to talk about the difference in color. So we will see these colors on the box once we press this Infusible ink. When the Infusible ink comes out of the box, the colors are always going to be less vibrant. So don't worry, but it will look like this when it's done pressing. So what's best is to weed Infusible ink with your hands if you can. You want your hands to be clean and dry, so you don't want them, like, you don't want oils on your fingers, you don't want them to be wet, you don't want them to be dirty. And the name of the game is patience when weeding Infusible ink. So you just want to go slow, bending and cracking as you go if needed, then peeling back just the pieces you don't want on your mug, right? So in this case, it's my M up here at the top, but I want all these little internal vines and leaves. So I'm going to work to leave those on my transfer sheet. So we'll just leave those little bits and pieces on our transfer sheet as we weed this Infusible ink. All right, I've finished weeding my Infusible ink. So I want to say that this is a fairly complicated design. I kind of enjoy weeding Infusible ink. I just take my time, use a pair of tweezers to kind of get all those little bits and pieces. If you don't like weeding Infusible ink, you could just put the letters. You could use your contour feature to like get out some of the small pieces and leave a few. So you can customize this project to be whatever you would like it to be, and however complicated you would like it to be. So I just wanted to note that. Next, we're going to get rid of all these small pieces so we do not get them on our mug. And then we want to add the design to the mug itself. So you'll need the mug itself, you'll need some heat-resistant tape, and you'll need a lint roller. So with the lint roller, you are going to clean the mug really well, and I'm actually going to get a fresh piece. That top one was a little dirty, so we're just going to clean this really, really well. So the better you clean this, the more successful you will be with the Infusible ink. Any debris on the mug can affect your transfer, so it can hold the transfer sheet off of your mug. If there's little pieces of Infusible ink, you'll have those where you don't want them. So we are going to clean it as well as we can. Now remember, we've got this sheet is fully cut out. These tabs will go under the handle of our mug and we'll just wrap it around. So what you want is about 1/2 inch from the handle on both sides to be completely free from the Infusible ink. So these scalloped edges to be 1/2 inch from the handle on both sides. Now if you set the mug on the table like I have, and if we look at it straight down, so we get the mug as straight as possible, get the handle as straight as possible, run over this one more time since I touched the mug. We can put the Infusible ink sheet down on the table. So now everything is down on the table, and as we move it in, it'll be flush with the bottom. And then we just want to look and make sure that our design is centered. So is it equal distance apart? Is that scalloped edge equal distance apart on the side? If it's not, we'll just turn it slightly and try to close it again. So once it is equal distance apart, we're just going to pull it as tight as we can get it. And we're going to use the stickiness of the transfer sheet to stick it to the mug underneath this handle. And we're going to pull it from this side. Again, stick it, and we're going to make sure it's down all the way around So it should be all the way down on the mug, and it'll be sticking up slightly at the top. Now what we're going to do is use some tape to make sure everything stays secure. Now this is heat resistant tape, remember that. We just want some small pieces. So we'll use a couple small pieces underneath this handle to make sure nothing moves. Now I don't like to get it on my design or as little as possible. So I'm just putting it right on those transfer tape pieces. And then we want to look around and look for any loose areas and button those up. So it may be loose here where it meets our mug. You just want to pull that in as much as possible. Get it super tight. Alright, so I fired my mug press up so it could be heating up as I did this. I ended up taping around this bottom portion. So basically I didn't want this transfer sheet to hang as I'm putting it into my mug press, and for me I prefer everything to be down really well along these edges and along the edges around the handle. The top, I feel like it's tight enough, so I'm good there. I did tape at the top both of these edges up here. All right, so now we're ready to press. The mug press is heated up. So I have my Easy Press mat here for when my mug is done, that I have something heat resistant to put it on. The mug press is ready because the button is green and it beeped when it was ready for me. And I'm going to put the mug in with the top up. So bottom goes down, and we want to center it within this gap as much as possible. So I'm going to slide it in, and remember that the handle is cool and the plastic on the mug press is cool to the touch. The only part that is hot is the green part you see inside, and you don't want to touch that. So we're just going to drop our mug in all the way to the bottom, and then we're going to carefully close, watching the mug to make sure it stays in the center, and you can slightly adjust as you go. And then once I close this lid, it starts pressing, but I want to look from the top and I want to make sure that mug's in the center, and I'm not liking it exactly. So I just want to move it just a little bit. Now I feel like it's exactly in the center, so I'm going to let it start counting down. So what's going to happen is these lights across the top, it will go all the way across as it presses. So you'll notice there is no time and no temperature on the mug press. That's because it's optimized for sublimation or infusible ink. You'll also notice I didn't have to put any butcher paper around there. The carrier sheet on the infusible ink is enough to protect the mug press itself. So it will just count across and it'll beep when it's done. So this can take around 6 minutes, I'll say that. It's just going to depend on the temperature of your room, the temperature outside, humidity, that type of thing. It's optimized for pressing mugs. So it's going to sit here and do its thing, and we're just going to wait for it to beep. So I will turn the camera back on when it's about done, because I can tell by these progress indicators when it's approximately going to be done. When it's done, it will beep, and then you can remove the mug from the mug press. The handle will be cool. So as long as you only touch the handle, and remember these white parts are cool, then you're fine. So don't touch the mug itself. Pull it out, set it on something heat resistant, and leave it to cool for like 10-15 minutes, and then we'll come back and look at the results. This first mug is cool, so let's take a look at the results. So all you want to do is remove all your tape, your transfer sheet. All right, now that I have all my tape off there, let's take a look at this gorgeous mug. So you can see the color wraps all the way around. And I'll just go over this right here. So you see a little piece right there. That's just the transfer sheet, and it just stayed on there. You can just pick that off, and it looks amazing. So this mug looks so good. And you could add anything you wanted here, right? So you could add a monogram, an initial, a name, customize the gift for the recipient, and use their favorite color, Infusible ink. Okay, so let's make another full wrap mug. This time let's talk about making the larger size mug. So I have one weeded here, and we're going to talk about 2 colors as well. So the large size and 2 colors. But this is the sheet, Infusible ink transfer sheet that's for the mug press. So I just wanted to peel this off so you can see how close that gets to the edge. So it's a super thin piece of scrap. So that's why you need to be careful when you put it on your mat, because it will be just not a ton of scrap at all. So I just wanted to note that, but we don't need to weed another one on video. So here is one that's cut. Now this is for the large mug. So let's talk about doing 2 colors on a mug. So I have hearts cut out of this one, and then these little globes say World's Best Mom. And I cut hearts out of a purple transfer sheet as well. And all I need to do is remove those hearts and stick them into the corresponding slot. So I just size them the same as they are on this cutout, and they'll fit right in these slots. And now we can press 2 colors at the same time. So I'm just going to fill all of these hearts with purple, and then we'll press our mug. So that mug's done. It's out of the press. Now let's talk about smaller designs. So these are just cut on Infusible ink transfer sheets. You can design these however you would like in Cricut Design Space. You do not have to use the template, but you can use it to get a size and then just delete the template off. And then all I'm doing is trimming the transfer tape itself fairly close to the design, just so there's not a ton extra. So this transfer tape is sticky, obviously, and any of that is a potential to pick up lint, some of the extra pieces of Infusible ink, things like that, because it's sticky, and we'll just pick things up. So we're just going to trim that kind of close, but you want enough, of course, to stick to the mug to hold it down. But if you have some excess, we're just going to trim that off. All right, and then once I have all those pieces off, it's time to add it to our mug. So the first thing we want to do with the mug is find the center. So one easy way to do that is just to kind of use a piece of tape, find the center by looking down on the mug. So I feel like that's approximately the center, and then I'll just kind of wrap these down a little bit on the sides. So now when I look from the side, I can see a center mark, if you will, that's not permanent. Now we will want to lint roll once again. I'm just going to lift that tape up a little bit. Lint roll across the surface. We'll just do one side at a time. So first side, just going to use my lint roller to kind of hold that up. We can see the center mark, and now we have our Infusible ink, and it's already weeded, and this one says allergic to mornings. And now we can find the center of this. So what I kind of like to do is don't fold it, but get the 2 edges together, and then sort of crease just that transfer sheet. So now I know that my center is approximately along in here, and I can see the center of my tape, and I can get it centered. And then what else you want to do is make sure that it's straight and that it's in the location you want it to be in. So up and down, you want to make sure that it's in the center, straight, all that kind of thing. And once you have it in place, we're going to start sticking that down. And I like to start in the center and push out. That way I'm getting any air bubbles I can out and getting that really stuck down on the surface. And then we want some more heat resistant tape. So anywhere where we think it might lift up, you're going to want to put a piece of tape. So I would say especially in the areas where your Infusible ink gets super close to the edge, go ahead and drop a piece of tape on there. And I would at least put one on all 4 sides. And you may need to put more than that, just depending on the design and how close you trimmed your sheet to the edge. So I think that looks pretty good. Maybe one more small piece on this A. And we're ready to go to the opposite side. So once again, we have this tape at the top still. So we'll just flip this over. We'll go ahead and lint roll this side. I'm going to lift this tape up a little bit. And we'll just lint roll off this side. Use the lint roller to hold this up. And once again, find the center of your design. Crease just the sticky transfer sheet. Make sure that center is on the center of your design. And something I like to do here is just press it down just a little bit. Flip this over. Don't set it down so you don't pick up any lint. And see how far you are from the bottom. So I know how far away from the bottom the N is. So I can flip this over and I can make sure my N is in the approximate right location, and it looks pretty good. So now I'll just make sure everything's straight and then repeat the exact same process. So press it down and add tape. And then I'm going to press this in the exact same manner. So add it to the mug press the exact same way, press the handle down and wait for that time to go off. And before I press this, one more thing, this tape across the top, I remove it and I use it for taping around this last side. That way you don't waste it. So don't think at all that you're wasting that tape. Just cut it into smaller pieces and use it around the outside. So now I'll finish this up and press it. Once again, you can do two colors even if it's just, you know, a design in the center and not the full wrap. So to do two colors, I just cut my words out of two different colors. Then I trimmed the carrier sheets close so that the words wouldn't get on the carrier sheet of the other word. And then I just taped it down really well. And in this case, I put a piece of tape across the center because that's where the two colors meet. So just be aware to tape it down really, really well. And I'm just going to add these to the other side and then press this mug. My favorite part of the whole process is removing everything and revealing the design. So I left these on just with a little bit of tape so I could peel them back and reveal the gorgeous design on each of these. And here's that full wrap where we did the two different colors. You can see those purple hearts in the pink. And here's the two different colors with just a center design. And finally, just a center design with one color. So now let's try out some pens. So after I sized my design, I sent it to my Cricut machine and drew it with a fine point infusible ink black pen. And then I have some more pens here to color it in. Now when I drew this, remember you're going to want to mirror the cut. And then I want this to be a best friends mug. So you might keep one for yourself and give one to your friend. So I'm going to put best on the front of each one, friends on the back of each one. And so you would give one away, but it would be a complete mug like the one you keep. I did draw this design on regular copy paper. I always make sure that the copy paper I use is rated for laser printers, and that's the only thing that I just make sure to do that. So now we want to color this a little bit, add a little bit of color. How much is completely up to you, and however you want to color this in. Now I usually put a spare piece of paper under as I color just in case some of the ink bleeds through. And then I'm just going to kind of add a little color here and there. And as you can see, I've got some markers, I have some of the Infusible ink freehand, pens, just whatever you have will work for this. And I am going to make each one of them exactly the same, so it'll be a mug that you can give to your friend and each one will be the exact same thing. So I'm just going to keep coloring this in, and then we'll come back and talk about pressing the pens because there are a few more steps with those. Here are my pieces colored, and I did want to note that I did not intend for this to wrap around the mug completely, so I cut them into pieces, and we're going to place each one individually. So we're going to place them similar to the way we placed the last ones with the single design. Once again, you want to be sure, always lint roll your mug really, really well. And then we'll use our tape trick once again. And I am using a large mug for this design, but it does not matter what mug you use for this. So we are going to place the tape again approximately in the center. And then we will do each side. So this is the side I want to say best. So I'm just going to hold my mug there, and then we'll place our design ink side down onto the mug. And once again, so we can kind of crease our paper just a little bit, just at the very bottom, very top. So I just made just a little bitty crease, and that way I can tell what the center is. And I think I want to center on the word instead. So I'm going to go by the center of the best, being centered on the tape. Then I'm going to make sure everything's straight. Then we'll just tape that down. We're going to tape this all four sides definitely. Make sure it's tight against the mug. And then these larger mugs are actually really tight when you put them in the press. So I'm going to get this bottom completely so that I don't hang that as I'm putting it into my press. And you might have heard my Easy Press beep. I have it heating up, so we're ready to press as soon as we're done adding this. Then I'll just put a piece of tape across the top. So that's one side ready. Then we're going to flip and do the opposite side. Now, since that's been against the table, I just like to lint roll one more time, just to make sure everything's off of there. And this side I want to say friends. And once again, I think I'll use the word as my center. However, we do want to make sure that it's off the same amount from the bottom. We'll center on that word, put it approximately in the same location, and then I'm just going to use one piece of tape to hold it down. Then we'll take this piece of tape across the top. And use it. So once again, I'm going to get it as tight as possible with these first couple pieces. We want to make sure to cover this bottom completely. Now for the pens, your ink will bleed through this copy paper if you were just to put it in the mug press, and you do not want to get any ink on your mug press itself. So we are going to put 4 sheets of butcher paper, and I have them cut, so if you leave them hanging off, they will get really kind of almost burnt. And so I like to cut them to size. And I actually cut these a little bit long, so I'll trim them off just a little bit. And you will not probably be able to reuse these. So that I tend to find that the ink, it gets on all 4 sheets. So just be aware that you will need 4 new sheets for every mug you do with the pens. We're just going to tape that down really well. And once again, like these large mugs, the bottom might hang on you because it is tight going into the press. So I'm just going to run some tape around through here. That's not like completely necessary, especially the smaller mugs. You might just put a piece of tape to hold it down and then you might be fine. Because I'm just going to put like 1 piece of tape on the top here at the very top. All right, so there's our mug ready for our mug press. All right, so here's our mug press all heated up. It's ready to go. We're going to drop the mug in, and I do want you to watch how tight it is. Like you think it's going to hit, but if you just kind of work it in from one side, so push it all the way to this side and then work it in on the other side, it slides right in. Like it's a perfect fit with the larger mugs. And once again, you want to make sure it's centered as it closes. If it's not, just adjust the location a little bit. Now these mugs, of course, they're larger, so they don't close quite as much. We're just pushing that handle down, making sure everything's centered. Once again, it'll start counting down with the LED lights as soon as I close that. And we're just gonna wait for our mug to be completed. Here are the Best Friends mugs, and they are out of the press. I put them to cool. You can see the ink has bled through and has gotten onto my butcher paper. So I thought we would peel these back on camera so you could see that the butcher paper does in fact get ink on it. Maybe that top sheet doesn't have any, but basically you're gonna have to throw it away. And then we'll just peel one of these and look at the design. You can see those colors really pop after they're pressed. So I'm going to remove the wrapping on both of these, then we'll wrap this up and talk about the press. And there are your best friends. So many mugs, so little time. So from full wrap mugs to full wrap mugs with 2 different infusible ink colors, to just infusible ink transfer sheet mugs with just the design on the front and the back. Again, we did those with 2 colors and single colors as well. And then of course we did a couple with pens and markers showing how versatile the Cricut mug press is. Now, a few like safety things. So we talked about that it's cool to the touch around the outside. You do want to use this in a well ventilated area anytime you're using infusible ink. So I always just crack the window in my craft space while I'm using a machine like this. And I also wanted to talk about that it does have an auto off feature. So if you ever have it on, forget to turn it off, it will start beeping at you first and then it will just turn itself off. So I did want to note that because I don't think I did that at the beginning of the video. If you need more information on the mug press itself, head to our first video. Now you know how to make all the mugs with infusible ink. If you have any questions about anything we've covered, please ask them in the comment section below. If you like this video, if you learned something new, give us a thumbs up. And then you might just want to hit subscribe on our YouTube channel because I have more mug press videos planned. We're going to test this thing with sublimation. We are going to compare it to different ways to make mugs. We are going to test these mugs with infusible ink in the dishwasher and test that claim that they're dishwasher and microwave safe. So we're going to test those claims. And I'm also going to see if I can find other things that will fit in this mug press besides just the Cricut blanks. So you don't want to miss any of those videos, so be sure to hit subscribe because I have tons more to do with this mug press over the next few weeks. If you have anything that you want to see over the next few weeks, like you have questions about the mug press itself or what it can do, is it possible to do this or that, leave those in the comment section below and maybe I can work those into a video in the future. So I hope this helped you understand a little bit more about the Cricut mug press and all the options that you can make with infusible ink. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next week. Thanks, y'all. Bye-bye.